So it's time for another sowing and growing video, and this one covers the period June and July. Lots of flexibility in terms of what you can sow at this time of year. I'm going to try and focus on the things that specifically are good at this time of year. As I say, loads and loads of things can be sown now with great success. So I'm doing my last batch, I think, of tumbler, which is a great little bush kind of hanging basket tomato. The harvest only lasts for about a month, and so we like them for as long as possible, so we do a few batches separated by a few weeks, and that just gives us a little bit of a continuous supply. Obviously we grow tomatoes in the polytunnel as well, cordon varieties, and they give you a long harvest, but I always think the ones grown outside in full sun give you a little bit more taste. So I'm doing my second batch of storage beetroot. I'm doing Cylindra Pablo, which I think is just a little bit nicer than Bolt Hardy, if I get that right, Burpee's Golden and Boldor. We find that the golden beetroots are a lot more popular. Quite a few people say they don't like beetroot. I've only tried the red varieties, but the golden varieties are a bit more carrot-like, a little bit sweeter, a little bit milder, and yeah, very, very popular with everybody. And I'm also doing one more succession of graffiti. After this, I think graffiti doesn't do so well later on in the season, but at this point it's doing great. We're actually just about to harvest our graffiti cauliflowers, the ones that we sowed really early in the year, and they look absolutely stunning. So I'm really, really pleased with those. You can also sow some white varieties. I might do those as well. I'm not 100% sure. Do quite a few lettuces at this time of year. I'll just pop those up so you can see them. Little Gem, Grenoble Red, Navara, Canasta and Riccia, all really nice summer lettuces. I am going to try to do a late batch of courgettes. I've got 5 courgettes in the ground at the moment. Actually, most of those are in containers, some of them very big containers. And you know, they're a great crop, very popular. And so I'm going to just do a couple. I'm going to do Zephyr and One Ball, and I'm going to do them in my deep cold frame after I've harvested my early main crop potatoes. And the logic behind the deep cold frame is that hopefully I can keep the crop going all the way through October, still give me plenty of time to get that deep cold frame replanted for winter. Then I'm going to do my second batch of purple sprouting broccoli. So I'm going to do Red Admiral, Red Fire and Claret. The reason for the 3 varieties, even though I sow them all at the same time, they are harvested in succession. So one comes kind of early to late winter, then the next one comes early spring, and the next one comes late spring. And the reason I do 2 successions of those, separated by about 3 weeks, is again, it just staggers and smooths the harvest window so that we get a nice kind of continuous supply of them. Because when the purple sprouting broccoli actually flowers, it can be a little bit variable depending on weather conditions. And so by sowing 3 weeks apart, you do get quite a difference normally in the actual flowering times, even of the same variety. So I'm doing salad onions still all the way through summer this year, because I'm trying this new variety, Summerland. I don't know whether it's going to work, so it's not a recommendation, but it has been recommended to me. I'm doing still the odd batch of Calabrese. I do Marathon. I do it all year round. It's pretty reliable all year round. I'm going to give Radicchio another try. So I've tried a few different varieties of Radicchio over the years. Never been huge fan of it. I love the way it looks. I like the texture of it in salads, but I'm not keen on the taste. But you know, I've got the space, so I thought, well, I'll do at least one bed and see how it goes. I've got a few different varieties here to try. And kales, so you'll see kales popping up in a few of these videos. I like to do kind of kales every month, so I do them in June, I'll do them in July, I'll do a late batch in August, and the later they get, the more risk you're taking that they won't establish really well and grow really well over winter. But the benefit of doing them a little bit later is that if they do establish and do well, then they'll flower a little bit later in spring, and then that allows us to get a nice continuous supply of kale all the way through the year, because my early batch that I start sort of late January time, that comes ready just as these late sowings of kale are finishing. Everything for me is about continuity of supply because we're pretty much self-sufficient in veg. And I will start doing my normal varieties of spring onions a bit later, so late June and July. You'll see those, first one of those being ramrod. So let's take a look at July. Another succession of calabrese and a few kales. There's the kale varieties I'm doing, Nero di Toscana and Reflex. Reflex is one of those new varieties of green curly kale, which is really prolific, and yeah, it's a big favourite of ours, although it's a little bit more expensive than something like dwarf green, which is still a great curly kale. Still doing successions of lettuce. Do I ever stop doing lettuce? You know, we harvest so much lettuce, it's our most popular crop, and I eat a big salad every day, and Debbie has a big salad every other day at least. So I'm doing Riccia, Grenoble Red, Navarra and Canasta. I think they're the same ones that I did in June. And then Guardsman and Ramrod salad onions, and I'll gradually, I think, switch over to Guardsman, and then a bit later I'll do White Lisbon. White Lisbon's really cheap, Guardsman's a little bit more expensive, Ramrod's a little bit more expensive than that. So I kind of, you know, once it gets to be sort of mid-August time, White Lisbon does great, and it's really cheap. So I do start some cabbages, mainly to be harvested loose leaf, and I do April and Durham early. I'm thinking now though that maybe it's better to do my spring cabbages started under grow lights in January. I think they actually might do better than ones started now and sort of done in the ground and all of that sort of thing, and then grown over winter. Well, I'll have to see. I'm going to start doing some more experiments with Brassicas rather than overwintering them, which is the traditional sort of technique for cauliflowers and things like that. To start them early with grow lights. I have loads of grow light capacity in January and sort of early February, particularly as I'm pushing my dates for peppers back. So given I've got that capacity, yeah, why not just try it and see? I think there's a good chance of success. You might like to try that if you've got grow lights as well. Lots of potential for January and early February sowings of interesting brassicas. So then I'm going to do just one small batch of Christmas potatoes. We won't harvest them for Christmas though, because we've got perfectly good potatoes that we've planted back in April that will keep in the compost and be perfect quality new potatoes for Christmas. I'm doing that July sowing of Charlotte potatoes to harvest in April. And the reason for that is I find that the ones I did back in April are sprouting by late March, early April, whereas the ones I do in July are not sprouting until the end of April. By the end of April, we will have true new potatoes that we started in January and February. So that's the way that I get a nice continuous supply of new potatoes all year round. And then we restart again in July with the Asian greens, tatsoi, joy choy, red pak choy, things like that. Might try a few other varieties as well, but July's a long way off yet and haven't really finished my planning. But that's the time really, July, to restart your Asian greens. You can get away with it a little bit earlier, but they are likely to go to seed a bit faster than if you wait, and I can afford to wait because I've got loads of stuff to eat in summer. So I think that is pretty much it. June and July. My name's Steve. This is the Seaside Kitchen Garden Allotment channel, and all the details of everything that I'm talking about, including links to the database that I'm looking at on my iPad, are available in the description. I'll see you soon.